Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Came Back After Killing Trihexa and Fought World's End Harem movie. Before we start, please go support ecipionelafricano for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 1. Prologue. Let's get to the bottom line on this story. 1. This story will take place after the fight with the Triexa. All those events from the light novels happened, so until after the fight with the Triexa this story began. 2. The leaders did not lock themselves in, although I don't know whether to put it in the other or the other. 3. Also, one thing here in this universe does not exist: military. 4. Both Issei and the others who accompanied him will wake up with him and follow him to the end. 5. Yes, I will take the idea from the anime Shuumatsu no Harem of the Miras Matabatos. 6. Also tell him that when the plot was given, the supernatural world had been revealed to humanity, and as it was in that problem, which I will advance further on what will happen, they joined together and ended up on different sides. 7. Well, what I mean by that is that you could say that after a month of the closure of the Triexa and Rising and others from the human world and another, they revived the Khaos Brigade, where they rebelled and wanted to conquer it, and have the world at their feet, and also that they wanted to subdue women to be their slaves and more, and many like that, and they joined and others did not, where they fought for it, although that does not interest us. Well, that is the idea. 8. After that, everything got worse. There was still danger for the girls and women of the human world as well as supernatural, so the survivors have to give their all to have the peace they want. 9. Well, in this story I will include everything: angels, demons, fallen angels, yokai of any kind, elves, other types of women, for example cow women, and others. Human civilization will also have their respective roles, and even more so, as the story goes, they are the last. 10. But as they say, not everything is smooth sailing. Even before that, some of the latter had suffered betrayal from their companions before they knew who were their true companions. 11. Another thing, this story will be full of Issei's girls. There are some of my stories where they appear, but in this story they will take sides, like the queen of Issei's entourage and the vampire, and I don't know if there are any more, because I don't remember any worse. 12. There are some who did not suffer betrayal and who defended their partner tooth and nail. 13. Here some leaders betray. Others don't. And another thing here, the same Valet, Kiba, Saji, Serorg, Razor, Hades, and others are traitors, and they figuratively stabbed the chestnut in the back. And I don't know if I should put Gasper as a traitor, although he's going to die anyway. 14. Everyone knew the story of these survivors, but I will explain that later, but well, I can't explain anything else, but this will be up to you. Chapter 2. It all began. In a place full of darkness, the afternoon became dark, but the clouds and the sky were in mourning. In the background, thunder and lightning could be heard, but only the rain disguised the tears of pain from a group of girls who were kneeling. And in some there were bodies. If the bodies of those brave men who fought to the death for the good of an entire community still asked heaven to kill them to forget the events that left in their minds and hearts, the only thing they asked for was their death to forget. And on that battlefield you could only see several swords and a flag on the ground. And among those brave men was the body of Issei Hyujo, who in life was the security and a good man who gave his life for his loved ones. But how it all began, we would have to hear it from Issei Hyujo himself. Issei: well, I'll tell you before my soul and those of my comrades leave this world. Issei's POV: well, I'll tell you how it all began, how this massacre began. First, what I want to tell you is that I, like my comrades, were endowed with a power that served to protect our loved ones. This power came from generation to generation throughout time, and that made us all train for our entire lives. Well, I'm getting off topic. First, tell you how I became a demon and a dragon. It was a day like any other, passing from the academy to my house over the same bridge when a girl who I knew by the name of Amanoyama, not thinking that he was actually a fallen angel. That was until after our date in the park, where she told me you were dying for me, and I couldn't believe it, but to the point that she killed me and left me there, disgusted. I was saved by my master and my girlfriend Rias, a demon, And so the days passed like demons. I went, and we rescued a former nun named Asia Argento, and I also met the other members of the occult club. Akeno Himejima, his queen, Kaneko Tujo, his rook, Kiba Yudo, his knight, and me his pawn. Everything happened very quickly until the arrival of the fried chicken, Razor Phoenix. Well, the first fight with him wasn't very even since we had unequal forces, and so in the end he won first. After meeting Lucifer's ex-wife, she told me to go rescue her sister. I did it. I defeated the talking bird and took my beloved away from there. After other events we fought with the Kokobile cadre, and my rival Vala Lucifer the White Dragon also appeared. Although of course there was still no time and the fight between the white and the red was over, he would decide the future of something that was soon to happen. After that, the leaders' meeting happened, although of course the bank interfered and tried to sabotage the meeting by claiming he was a traitor. Of course we had to confront each other, just as the leaders were fighting with others who had interrupted the meeting. Of course we won. From that point it all began. Then we went to the underworld for the meeting of the young demons, where we found the sister of my master's tower and my kohai, Kuroka, where we had a small confrontation and with the help of Tannen, former Dragon King. Also, at that meeting, the evil god Loki showed up to spoil the party. Of course we gave him what he deserved, although of course he wasn't satisfied because something would happen later. Well, let's continue. After other events we find the coming of Diodora Astaroth. What a damn kidnapping of my sweet Asia. We faced his entourage, and after almost sending him to another world at the cursed party, the descendant of the Mao Beelzebub interrupted. Let's say he sent the descendant to sleep with consequences. I woke up to the incomplete Juggernaut drive. In the end I ended up being rescued by my companions. Well, also that damn Loki, he had to cast a curse on me, and as the saying goes, you are your own enemy. Well, it came true, and he not only sought to kill me but also Rias. After the festival and the fight with Rias, Sarayarg's cousin, we had been called to take the exams to become middle-class demons. Here I will summarize all the facts so that it is not so long, and I apologize if I skip any event or something like that. We went to Teach's territory. We also rescued Ingva Leviathan. Also, when I was killed by an arrow with Sammo poison, I revived and had the body and blood of a dragon, red flesh. I don't know if I should call it a woman. I also had Opgia power in my possession. The most chaotic was the fight against the Trihexa. Many lives were lost and the others and I locked up, together with the leaders. We locked up the beast, of course with something that only I and very few knew about, how to seal a beast like that. But well, it will be explained. Just like the Azazel Cup where he was victorious. Well, here we come to where it all began, how this massacre began. It had been a while since we had conflict with powerful beings, or so I thought. Time passed, and I lived peacefully with her until the Khaos Brigade revived with the old Riseving who was alive, and not only that, but the leaders, the three Maos, Azazel and other fallen angels, and what was surprising is that Michael and Dulio revealed themselves with the sky as well as several angels. And other races revealed themselves, yokai of various races, including the Nikomata clan, if they are still there. Of the Nikomata, and Kuroka and Kaneko's mother was still alive. Many betrayed the alliance, and another thing. Leaders of other factions revealed themselves. The only one who did not help was old Odin and his faction, since some did betray them. So I had to turn to my people. To wage this war, I needed trustworthy men, someone I knew wouldn't stab me in the back. I had to count on and turn to my clan. If your server belongs to a clan, guess who the leader of that clan is. If here your servant, if I am leader of the Northern clan, or that was our old name. I took my mother and the other girls to where the clan headquarters were. And the official leader who was above me was the Queen Mother, and the leader of that clan was my grandmother Kyoko Hyujuo. We made the announcement, and revealed the existence of the supernatural world. Many didn't take it well, others did, but we were a family, we had each other's backs. In some places this flag appeared. The flag and logo of our clan. Logo was the badge we wore with pride. But I warned my men that we were possibly going to die. But no one took a step back. And from that moment on, the village became a refuge for all those women who needed protection. But they were focused and training for when the warning was given that war was going to happen. Old Odin and the others arrived to see my men, where each of us prostrated ourselves and swore loyalty to the only one who remained in the alliance. As the days passed, many joined the Chaos Brigade and others joined us. And well, the news broke in the human world and everything broke loose. The massacre and what was possibly the annihilation of humanity and men occurred. It all started in the center of Tokyo, where Rising declared war and usurped the throne as the new demon king along with the other four, just like the others. But we weren't going to let him get away with it. And we gathered so many members that they would come out to fight. And the order was given that every young man under the age of 16 shall fight or wake up. Many joined the Khaos Brigade, where they offered money and fame. That they could subdue any woman in the world if she joined. That all women would serve to fulfill the desires of men. Many did not want to be like that. They asked to stay in a village, others left just because of lust. Clouded by these thoughts, they left with the other guys. But there were very few others who took refuge in our village. We didn't take notice. Until the end, the massacre broke out. Many countries became corrupt and others did not, but the cost of many soldiers was incredible. Big industrialists were left behind like cowards who had been left with many married women who were under their control. They put all their money into weapons to counter our attacks. It was of no use. There were very few of us who remained loyal to us, and all of them carried this logo on their armor or whatever type of weapon they were using. The logo of the Empire of the New Sun, a new dawn that would end all this evil. Many were sent to various places to defend them. And always on the walls of the places our flag and our logo appeared stained with the blood of traitors. And what happened to the men who accompanied me? They were the leaders who had their own platoon to defend various places. But the only things that kept us sane and conscious were two things: protecting our motherland and revenge, hatred, anger and other things for what happened to us. That's right, gentlemen. Each one of us has suffered betrayal, from those we once loved madly and passionately. But all that existed was a simple memory that tormented us. Each one found out in the most barbaric way possible. Those we once loved would confess in front of us that they had had relationships behind our backs, that it was to gain experience, or it was their physical appearance, and that they were longer than ours, which they said were short. That hurt us, knowing that they were lying to our faces, that they made us believe they loved us, and then only said that they melted in pleasure, and that they would come back to us later or even more. They confirmed that they loved the other person because they satisfied them more. It hurt us to the core, but as they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. They are experiencing firsthand the fruits of their rejection and deception. Those words and images of betrayal shaped our character, and were our daily mentality to keep fighting. But that thought was still there, and another one followed it. To stay alive, to be with them again, not with the traitors but with the new girls who conquered, rebuilt and fixed again our cold heart, destroyed by them. They gave us the feeling of warmth, of fighting for them, and of them being safe to see their smile again. Communications were short where we were, but letters of concern and love arrived, messages saying how much they missed us. It was a simple and very happy message that made us ask again, to live to see his smile again. But the desire for revenge had arrived. We had reached the cities where we once lived with the traitors, where we once shared beautiful moments with the traitors, where it all began, the betrayals towards us. Yes, and in front of us were the unfortunate ones who stole our most precious treasure, those who were once inferior to them but no longer. The armies were large, but we were only a few who never retreated. Very few remained dead, but the entire army fell. And what we did to the traitors was horribly good for them. Some cut their throats with their own hands, others nailed them or crucified them, but they always sought to make them suffer, to die slowly, and the most gratifying thing was that they, the traitors, witnessed how those who loved madly, those who would never hurt a fly, were now punishing those who once taught them pleasure, and then when the war began they always mistreated them, and used them as toys and slept in cells. In those cells you could hear the wailing and the calls for them to be with us. But destiny could no longer be changed, nor could time be turned back. And before your eyes were us and the others. One was alive who was fighting for another. And in front of us were the dying, those who sometimes felt superior. It was the difference between men, some who truly loved and others who satisfied their needs without love. They were crying out to be with us, to be forgiven, and we just left without seeing them, leaving them devastated. After the shifts were taken, we could return home, where our new loves were, and who were faithful to us. We couldn't have them with luxuries or anything like that, but they knew the situation and didn't complain anymore. They got used to it, and if they said anything, "It's better this way, so I can see you closer to me and not lose sight of you." And more than that, it was our house, where we had them. We later built more houses for more inhabitants. And when it was time to go, they always extended that moment so that we would never leave, but it was our mission. And we said goodbye to them, keeping a photograph of them somewhere. Thus the months passed and the war did not end. Some had already died, and we said goodbye to them like a warrior of our clan. Bury him with his shield and his sword instead of his shield and his helmet. Some wanted to be buried as in ancient times. Some of us put them on ships and shot fire arrows, and with the presence of old Odin or others asked us to burn them the same way, only with their armor on, and be in a pile of flowers on a wooden board. Afterwards, those who became leaders reunited us. And on our arms as a sign of honor, and just like the others on our arms with a dagger, we marked this logo of our shield, and now we were soldiers of our motherland. This logo was marked on our arm as a sign that we would die on holy ground. And then they gave us nicknames for killing all the deserters and traitors so quickly and efficiently. We miss our homeland a lot, since we could eat so delicious food with the seasoning of our women. But we had a simple meal of rice, a little noodles, meat and vegetables. They were the only thing we ate, so the supplies would stay at home. Just like fighting for the dreams of the children of the town. Keep those hopes alive. And everything seemed to be going in our favor when we heard that they were creating something that would kill us all. Like a creature that would kill us all and would be in possession of Riven. So we started to be more precise in our attacks, attacking every traitorous base, leaving our logo and flag embedded in the doors so they know we are there. Everything was beginning to go in our favor, but at what cost? Our strength was fading, our bodies were beginning to take their toll. All the wounds, cuts, and scrapes that were marked on our skin were marks of victory, marks of war, memories of battles and illnesses, but thanks to those from the supernatural world who helped us with potions and some magic, we kept going. The whole world was in chaos, news was heard, deaths here, massacres here. The mobilization was something that was remembered. The anti-traitor armies traveled by truck, each sitting in a truck. You could say that these were the soldiers who fought in the world wars. But well, we had to continue until all this plague was eradicated. We were finally going to fight this whole war. Until it could already be said that few remained as renegades, but the news alarmed us. That a large number of monster soldiers were heading towards the south of Japan in the mountains. More specifically our village, we no sooner heard the news. And as we already know, some time ago we found or had horses, those of us who were native to the lands. We set out in search of the damned traitors. Time passed and we finally arrived at the village. We couldn't evacuate any longer, just wait. The army would take a night to arrive. So we spent the night with all of them so we wouldn't forget them, and so we wouldn't forget them. Make them happy until they fall asleep. In the morning, we dressed as warriors of the past to fight in what was possibly the last time we were alive. And I, had taken out the weapon that my ancestors once wielded. In a special room, where in a mound of red earth, was the sword of my origin. And so it all began. We headed to about 700 meters from the Althea so that it wouldn't cause any damage. The atmosphere felt vile, the air had become tense, the clouds darkened and red clouds loomed as the sky cried out for bloodshed. And in front of us was an entire army of traitors. There at the top flying was Riving and all his henchmen, and traitors from the factions. And we are not even a bit afraid. All those who had betrayed the factions. But we knew what we were up against. Some of us were young, almost all of us were around 17 to 15, and there were some younger ones, 14 to 12, and others a few years older, 20 and 23. We all trained together, and ended up much of these traitors suffered the dillo of our swords, arrows, and spears. We all fight shoulder to shoulder. And the fight began. Many of us went on the offensive with magical attacks. My companions had already practiced a magic and fence style that surprised me by handling it quite well, always with its specifications. Some with fire, ice, water, air, earth, lightning magic, and so on. So while others with weak magical attacks, we began to make use of our skills, and I could not stay behind, and with the dragon devils I wiped out a good part of the army as well as with the balance breaker. And the others were not far behind. We began to be a massacre. Body after body fell at our feet. All the blood that was spilled, many tried to kill us but they couldn't. Although some minor and some serious wounds and cuts did begin to appear, that didn't stop us. We wiped out the entire army when the leaders revealed what they were planning. A black dragon a little bigger than Red, but what was surprising was that he could cast any kind of magic. Even the light spears and lightning bolts of Zeus, the black magic of Hades. And all kinds of magic. The fight was somewhat close since the cowardly leaders also threw out powers. Just like the leaders, someone launched several smoke grenades from the skies, but we didn't detect anything that worried us, but that wouldn't stop us. We had to use a sealed power. After reciting and taking control of our body. From the same sacred land several chains came out and trapped the beast who was under our control. Only those of us who had taken our power well and knew of these chains chained him, which was 10 of us in all. And we enclosed the beast within our own bodies and separated its essences into 10 human vessels. Then we met the leaders, who were very hard to beat. But we succeeded. Just like the traitors, we let them die slowly, hanging in chains from some posts. While not far away were our beloved ones. But we were in the countryside and were no longer in this world. Walking inertly in the field we saw something, or well, I can tell you. I moved forward inertly, and in my thoughts a wall with a large door that we moved forward more and more. And we were getting closer and closer to the door. And my hand unconsciously rose and pushed that door in the air. And a large entrance with trees, you could say it was a dream or a referral for blood loss. While after entering that entrance we then find a large field of crops, barley and wheat. And after seeing a great plain where some dreamed. Where there were no battles, no enemies, not even a hint of death, just a simple place, a place that conveyed peace. But that was not possible in this life. But we only existed as a kind of soldier. The clan could become extinct since no one had left any heirs, and perhaps it never will. No sooner had that place of chaos and blood appeared again. Strong lightning struck the region. But they no longer had any strength, and we fell backwards. The earth was wet with blood, but we were still conscious. The wounds began to hurt, wounds that became bigger due to wear and tear, leaving us bleeding to death. But it felt like this time we were not cheating death like before. Each one of us was lying down, but our armor was broken, full of blood, and our hands were covered in cuts. But our chest and stomach also had cuts from our wars and the recent ones. But when suddenly we felt hands no different from our companions, rough with cuts and wounds, these were not delicate hands so soft, but with little energy we looked up. It was our loved ones and our mothers who were shedding tears for us, but we could do nothing. With our hands we dried her tears, and from our mouths came these words. Don't worry, I'll be fine, but I'll always be with you. Even if I'm not here, I'll protect you. And from there we could only wait for what was evident, death, and we welcomed her like an old friend. But they asked us to leave, to stay with them a little longer, but it was not possible. But with our last breath and the strength in our necks, we tore off a necklace that we had worn since we were children and gave it to the first girl who entered our hearts. With my last strength I tore off my necklace and gave it to Rias. But in my mother's arms, and I only looked at my girls' faces. And we said our last breath. Thanks for everything. And we all said goodbye. But in a last view. But we all saw how the same people we saw were in front of us, the girls. With little ones in our arms and others running with us, what a beautiful image. But we went with our armor on. End of Issei's POV. So in the field with the rain that disguised the tears that wept for the departure of their beloved loves. And only in that part of the world and on the battlefield could you see the entire battlefield, plus on the ground was the flag of your clan. And the bodies held by them, knowing that they could do nothing. He had already departed to the other world or not. Chapter 3. After the war. After those brave men took their last breath, things were looking bad for everyone. The traitors had almost won. You might wonder why. Because after the events, almost many had fallen without any question or for some reason. For no reason at all, every man who had walked the world had fallen dead from some strange disease. But why did this event occur? Well, as the saying goes, he who kills iron dies by iron. The war had left many repercussions throughout the world: blood, death, and all because of a revolt between good and evil. Between war, death, and destruction. Good was winning, but evil did not want to be left behind and wanted to dominate the world. But what they had created, they did not know what would await them. It would have repercussions. The one who cheats. You will pay the consequences. What they did. It would be revealed to them. As the saying goes, what iron kills, iron dies. That they died by their own hand. What they had created harmed them. Life as it was known no longer existed. Miles and thousands of territories were stained with the blood of traitors and innocents. On the walls marked with blood, the insignia of the clan. Everything that was known was destroyed. City after city had collapsed. Those who were still alive died from a disease that wiped out everything. When I say everything, I mean everything, but the mystery of that was that it was only Cain males. Yes, every male being, no matter if it was human, animal, or supernatural being fell, even dragons were not spared from that. They all died, hundreds and hundreds or thousands of bodies of males, Cain men, or they are scattered throughout the cities of the world. Some species of animals were saved, some males were saved. For what reason? It was simple: they had or were allies of the clan, but the sadness for their masters made them depressed. Everyone paid the consequences of the war, the ambition of a single man, but some only stayed to fight for their ideals, for their country, for their honor, and for the well-being of their loved ones. They were brave men who, after the war, had their burial held. Of those men, who had been hurt, wounded by their adversaries, enduring so much torture, seeing death face to face in every confrontation. The rest they deserved was death, and their souls would be at peace. Returning, those who died on sacred ground, those who breathed their last in the motherland. They would be buried with full honors, and they would be remembered as heroes. But the traitors would be left in mass graves, like garbage, dispatched like the dogs they were. The tears and cries of so many women who suffered the loss of their loved ones were reflected. So many mothers who lost their children in the imminent battle. And not only them, those who once loved with madness and who because of lust left. Too late they realized their mistake, and it was too late. They wanted to fix and correct their mistake, and the only thing they saw was the body of him held by another who truly loved and another who only lied. That was the commotion, and as he had said before, that was his destiny, to die to protect his land. Life was so unfair to them that they didn't deserve this fate, they didn't deserve it. The burial of those men, young men who gave their lives without claiming, without asking for anything in return. The ceremony took place in the human world where all the warriors originated. The body that was in the custody of the bride or the one who had a necklace that was given at the time of her death was responsible for performing her ceremony and preparing her body. After a few months, they would be informed, when all the ingrates and traitors died they would be buried. And so it was fulfilled, the last traitor fell and the burials took place. The body was cared for, prepared, delicately cleaned. His armor that he still had was removed and cleaned but not fixed out of respect for the hero. After the body was cleaned, they began to dress him, for a ceremony, with the same repaired clothes from his last battle. After putting on his clothes, he put on a leather shirt like the one he used, then he put on his armor so that he would always have something that meant something to them on it. The helmet that some were wearing was placed on them. They all carried their shields with the clan logo. And also buried with a honorific dagger with peculiar detail. And so they were all buried with the flag of their clan and land. And then, just like that, he was carried away during a parade from the center of Tokyo to the city. Thousands and thousands of women, from all nations, some dressed as warriors, accompanied the parade that bid farewell to the heroes. Several rows of girls stood at the edge of the entire path, throwing flowers wherever they passed. Each one will always be remembered. Every step they took was the carriage pulled by the steed, the horse that accompanied its master to the end. Since it was a single prot, it always accompanied him, and now it would accompany him in his last farewell. The steed pulled the cart where the body was resting. Night came and the road was illuminated by all the torches that were lit, and illuminated the path, and the lamps thrown into the sky illuminated the heavens, and the moon that lit the path. Silver gardenia moon that accompanied your nights of darkness and disillusionment. Moonlit streets, which were the cradle of his youth. The moon that never left them even in the most adverse moments always lit their path on those nights of darkness and shadows. It always lit their path and was their consolation on those nights. The route led to a hill where there was a tree, an ancient tree that had stood in that location for millennia. Ancestral tree, or the Millennium Tree as it was known by the warriors, that tree was sacred, and its very location was the destination of its presentation where those warriors presented themselves for the last time to ask for its comfort and favor. That tree was said to be wise, that next to it the promises made could not be broken, and that tree always gave comfort and wisdom to the people who visited it. And in front of them, the corpses of the heroes, the leaves of that tree fell, and the strangest thing was that each leaf fell on the hearts and bodies of the heroes. After his presentation he was taken to his resting place. A meadow where abundant flowers grew was the burial place. The preparations had already been made, the holes had been dug. Each one carried the lifeless body of their heroes, and the last to receive it was his girlfriend who, along with their mother, placed the body in its resting place. Thousands of flowers were stuck to its hole. It was covered with that same earth, and on the back was the description of each one of them. And finally there was the phrase, "You will always be remembered as our hero." And so ended the life of those warriors. Several years later, civilization was already beginning to flourish, although with some difficulties in its development. The human and supernatural worlds coexisted in peace. All civilizations had made peace and an alliance. But that alliance was affected by an enemy that brought all kinds of adversities. And he promised to bring the deserters back to life. Meanwhile, several creatures came out and attacked many female warriors with their lives, despicable creatures. But everything was under control. Everything seemed to be the same. The life that was formed in those years after the extinction of the male species. Everything seemed normal. Or not. Chapter 4. Repercussions of the War. One where there is some kind of inter-universe combat, or something like that. The thing is like this. That or something similar. At this point I'm already fed up with the Rias ships or the Issei Harem being with others from other anime because I don't know if they are strong, handsome, more powerful, or if there is something else in them that they don't see in Issei. But where is the idea here? Why not make those same women leave or be betrayed by the protagonists of their respective stories? To make a long story short, in some chapters they are in a fight to the death. And besides, it's a separate story that another fight was brewing. Also, some of them find out about something that Chestnut did in his past. I can only say that this time I will fight with his harem for a justification. Revenge, I want revenge. And besides, what is promised is debt. In a few weeks I will give you the good news. From New Readings. Let's continue reading. It was known that the war had brought death, destruction, blood and sadness. But why did it have to happen? Very easy, the ambitions of many knew from such a twisted world what they wanted. But something that wasn't in their plans was a small group of young brave men. That they were not afraid of death, a death that sooner or later they would pay the price of their own lives. That feeling of hatred and anger prevailed in that group of young people. The why, the feeling of betrayal. Betrayal of a woman who broke his heart. The reason was not known, but it went without saying that they were just looking for someone to satisfy their basest instincts, while we were just brutes and idiots. Finding out about his infidelities devastated them, because they knew the wretch who ruined their lives. And they couldn't do anything, the forces between them were barbaric. Humiliation and heartache killed them. The Krabanto inside, they were dying inside, they didn't want to know anything about them. Many were students who were starting relationships, others who were with their childhood friends, and others who were just a toy. But they gave their all to make the relationship and them well, they treated them like a queen. The effort and dedication was much more than just one part. Some of them were someone they could trust at the time, the girls loved them, but the but was that other people came, blackmailing him about what seemed like indecent things. Most of them were old green-tailed guys or the bad boy type, dark and blonde, making life miserable for the protagonist. And that's how they lost themselves in lust. Another thing that motivated them was money, satisfaction, but not feelings. Their hearts and feelings were just a toy that was broken into 1,000 pieces. Only tears came out of those hearts plus someone as a witness. She. The moon witnessed those dark nights, nights that only she illuminated. Nights of loneliness, nights of sadness, but they gave light. Light that illuminated them one night, the light that always remains at the end of the tunnel. That special light that appeared in the most special moments of their lives. In front of each of them, the moonlight illuminated the love of their lives. In his eyes they were like angels descended from heaven itself. The glow made them realize that fate was stopping them. Although the end of that breakup was not tragic, time changed things. Rather, as the saying goes, time erases everything. When they met them and that melodious voice began to speak, it was like listening to a spell they couldn't escape. Or rather, what they didn't want to get rid of. All their desires were in those girls who were in front of them. Time and fate told them they had their big chance. And as some say, karma will come to them. Those who once loved madly, those who betrayed and committed infidelities. Now they repent and search for the pieces of a love that they themselves destroyed. That they themselves sent for the Basara. Now they search for it, tirelessly searching for that love, for what made them feel like they were the luckiest now. None of that is real. Memories haunt them. The laughter they sometimes shared was the memory that remains as something that could not be. The smiles that you once saw when you needed and adored them the most, now only the image of disappointment and sadness appear. Those dreams they had, dreams of a family, children, and a beautiful married family, were those dreams, illusions that they themselves killed. Those beautiful moments that happened with them were just a momentary experience. As the dust went, it went away and never appeared again. Desolation and sadness were present. They knew what they did was wrong, that they were risking an opportunity for an adventure. But as they say, you don't know what you have until you lose it. And they learned it the hard way. In their rooms where they were once with them, now only the memory torments them and tears come out of their eyes. The choice they made led them to this. They chose their destiny. They preferred pleasure and lust to a beautiful relationship. They harmed themselves in their choice, and by their choice they lost the opportunity to fulfill a dream that would remain just that. They looked for him. In their rooms crying, asking for them to come back again. Begging to hear the voice of their loved ones, but it was not going to be possible because it no longer belonged to them. They could no longer continue living without them. Life escaped from his eyes. They were no longer able to continue existing without him or them. But that life of the girls is by their own decision. That was the life of the girls who betrayed the boys. Giving back to the boys they couldn't be happier. That light that was in his life, a light that illuminated his life of darkness and sorrow. Now it was his light, his existence, his life. They were everything to her. Time passed slowly, taking advantage of every moment was gold. Every moment was like an oasis in the middle of the desert. But they didn't know what was coming. When the news of the supernatural occurred, many, bewildered, knew they had to fight for their homeland, their land, and their love. The few who joined the ranks resisted the forces of the traitors. The war that occurred, war that everyone was suffering. Death and destruction. It was what existed in the world. Skies that were stained with blood. Bodies lying on the ground. The blood of traitors flowed like the rivers of ancient Babylon. Thousands and thousands of bodies and armies fell at his feet. Thousands of lives were lost. Traitors who would never see the light of day again. Everything was chaos and destruction. Many are tired of so much death. But what was comforting was getting out of this and being with his loved ones. That's what they asked for. They sent messengers with letters about the status of different places. What they didn't count on was that they had to return to where they once came from. Place where there was once an illusion. Place where promises were broken but one still lived. Not to make that mistake again and forget about that past. But memory and anguish existed in those places. Places that the mind and heart never tried to forget. And they had to endure it more. They re-encouraged them with their chains. Chains that meant everything to them. The fight was fought, with the winners killing and torturing the traitors, and the voices they once loved being heard. They were there, seeing each other face to face. Everything was different. He had accepted but she hadn't. They still wanted to be with them but it wasn't possible. They gave the order to leave and left without saying anything else. Only the pleas of the women who betrayed them could be heard. Thus the hours, days, weeks of fighting passed without rest until the war followed them home. Place where all those who did not join the traitors took refuge. One night, it was the last night they would possibly be with them. There was a half-party among everyone, and I witnessed it from heaven. The moon that accompanied them on their darkest nights. Night fell and war was coming. They got ready and left in silence. When they arrived, the entire army was already there to kill those who resisted. And so the massacre began. Death after death, body after body fell, and they had imprisoned a beast, and still they continued. They finished them all off. There was no more war. Their strength was gone. I threw it out. I threw this one out. But fatigue and blood loss took their toll. In a moment the strength escaped from his body. On the ground, lying like another body in the endless war that has come to an end. The little energy that remained was spent watching those girls come to try to heal us, but the damage was done. With only the last bit of strength they had left, they tore off their necklaces and said, "My heart always belonged to you." And the last breath escaped from their bodies. The sacred land saw the events and reacted. The rain began to fall, tears for the loss of good men who gave their lives for the well-being of others. The devastated girls could barely cry. The tears were disguised by the rain that appeared. And in the distance only other people were seen crying. These people were the traitors who saw the bodies of those they loved and betrayed as dead and being held by someone other than themselves. But they were about to go, but something stopped them. After that funeral of the warriors, a society of women only was created where the warriors' wives came first and traitors were repudiated by everyone. That was the world they were in until time proved them right. Time passed, life changed, but the war still continued. Following the ideals, peace reigned in a single-gender society. But the memories of their saviors were still fresh as if it were yesterday. But they continued their normal lives. Until Chapter 5. The Return of Death. After the events of the war. Years passed, the known life collapsed and a new one emerged where the surviving species continued on. Women and females of all known species, past and present, showed themselves to the world and revealed their existence. The acceptance was mutual. Humans and other supernatural beings accepted their mutual coexistence after what happened in the Great War, or as it was called, the War of the Red Extinction, due to the blood shed by allies and enemies. The time for the making of a new civilization was in progress. The enemies continued, or in a given case, female enemies. That invoked creatures or aberrations that seek to destroy and take over foreign lands. But otherwise everything continued as normal. New leaders took over positions left by their predecessors, who were left in the hands of Morpheus, fulfilling the eternal dream. They had all grown accustomed to the absence of men, with the difficulty of not knowing if humanity would become extinct, but there were some species that had methods or pregnancies that were conceived by two women with a 100% probability that women would come out. But life would take another course, destiny would take the reins of the universe once again and give hope to such a collapsed world. It was an afternoon, where the patient sun of another day rested to dazzle the event that would occur in the time to come. And the cold night welcomed the helpless into oblivion and triumphant joy. The cold was his only shelter from that bright and furious night. It was a peculiar night in the lands of the rising sun. The night released its rays, lashing the earth, giving it a place like cries of victory and the triumphant entry of the king himself. The wind welcomed and whispered like flames that encouraged and asked for a return to this life. The chirping and screaming of the ancient birds created a gloomy and dark atmosphere, but it was perfect for the arrival of the event being presided over. The earth rumbled with excitement, as if it were a triumphant caravan. The place where this strange event takes place. A place that shone in the darkness of a night, imminently trees that had shed their leaves in season. Lighthouses that stood like a light that reflected the burning fire of the souls that still sought the warmth of the earth. This was the place where, long ago, they came to bury 30 good men who defended their motherland until their last breath and who paid tribute with their deaths. The place was arranged for a while, but that night the flowers began to grow, to shine as if the return was imminent. The place was resting after so much time of bloody battles that took innocent lives. The night shone in its maximum splendor. But suddenly, a hand came out of the earth itself. It was the hand of fate that brought hope back to humanity. It is not known for sure what is happening at this time. The superhuman effort of the hand emerging from the earth to be able to remove the body from its inherent prison. The hand was planted in the ground to be able to pull out the inert body that was about to leave the clutches of death. The effort continues and continues. The hand tries and tries to get out, digging and digging the earth, until it manages to support itself on the ground and raise its body. Slowly he raises and raises his body, until he manages to raise his entire arm and can also take out his other hand. The inherent body slowly emerged from the earth itself, emerging into the freedom of its earthen prison. Slowly it came out of the ground. You could see how its whole body was sticking out. It had already come out of the ground. And I couldn't explain what was happening. Until half of his body was outside the earth, the words of the body that escaped the clutches of death were faintly heard. What happened to me? The man who came out of the earth spoke weakly. With his hand he was able to remove the dirt that covered his face. And I looked at the shining sky, and from her brown hair her eye was visualized. A honey brown eye, bearing a small scar, was finally revealed. It was Issei Hidodo, the one who had commanded his force to destroy and eradicate the evil that existed in the world, or those who revealed themselves to the world. But it was not possible. He had died 2 years ago, almost 3 years since his departure, since his girls and acquaintances and his mother buried him where he remained today. But speaking, how was it possible for someone who had been declared dead to rise again from the dead? That was something impossible. The chestnut with the strength he had took his body out of the ground, and with them he took out the flag of his land and his dagger, which was buried together with the. And stuck in the flag was his shield, a shield that protected so many, not just him. Now he is alive. Issei, I can't stay here anymore. Come on, useless, get your body out of here. He gave himself self-motivation to be able to take out his entire body. It took a while to be able to move, until finally. A good push pulled him out of the ground where he was lying. Issei, finally outside. I thought I wouldn't feel this fresh air. From the chestnut's point of view, it is understandable. He could have had an experience of being buried alive, knowing how long he was there. After his body was pulled out, something still had him tied to the ground. Issei, wait, this is it. Yes, the flag of his clan and his clan crest were stuck. A shield that still bore traces of the enemy's spilled blood. A shield that was the wall of an entire nation. The shield of salvation and hope for many people. A shield that saved several people from annihilation. He knew very well that what he experienced was true, but what happened? The thought filled his mind. What would happen? What happened? Where he was? What happened to him? What time it was? A thought that began to torment him as soon as he came from the other world. Like so many knights on guard duty, what happened or would happen if I did or didn't do things? Time passed, he sat on Earth trying to consolidate his dream, but he couldn't. But time. I would charge. Revenge. Another hand. It came out of the ground. Not far from where the chestnut tree was, who, half disoriented, went ahead to rescue the poor unfortunate man who was inside. He began to dig into the earth until he could hold the forearm of the man who was under the earth. Little by little I pull out the unfortunate one. Thank you? Issei, you're welcome. Wait, Yuta. Yuta, sir. Issei, yes, come on, I'll get you out of that hole. Yuta, thank you, sir, but what happened? Issei, you just worry about leaving. Yuta, it's okay. Already outside, the man known as Yuta asked. Yuta, sir, what happened? Issei, I don't know, I'm the same as you. Yuta, what would happen? Issei, I still couldn't answer that. Yuta, how long ago did he leave? Issei, after about half an hour, I felt lonely. Yuta, but it's customary, no sir. Issei, don't say that. Yuta, back to the beginning, what's going on, why are we here, if we're not? Issei, dead, I know, I still can't understand this. The last thing I remember was saying goodbye to them, and then the darkness invaded. Yuta, yes, I feel the same way, but it may be that fate hasn't set a trap. Issei, maybe so, but I don't think we're just like that after what happened that night. Yuta has a point in his favor. The conversation continued for a few moments. Suddenly, the sound of the ground alerted him. Yuta, what is that? Issei, I think so, let's help him. Yuta, to whom? Issei, just follow me. The two acquaintances approached to see what was happening. Like the previous two, a hand was trying to come out. The two proceeded to help him, Issei taking his hand to help him out little by little, and Yuta digging deeper into the earth to unearth it. They stayed like that for a few moments, until they were able to pull it out of the ground. Thanks for helping me. Yuta, no problem, wait, I know that voice. Issei/Yuta, Shuya. Shuya, sir, Yuta, but what? The one now known as Shuya was the new one that was happening. Yuta, I thought you weren't coming out. Shuya, but how are you? Issei, it's a long story. Shuya, wow, let me be cheeky for a while. Yuta, I don't think you can. Shuya, why? Issei, there's another one to rescue. Thus began the new beginning of this world. Man after man came out of the earth with the help of others who had just emerged from the bowels of the underworld to return to life. Time became long until the last man left. Issei, it seems I will never get rid of you. Are you right, boss, or not, boy? Crowd, yes. Issei, it seems we're all exhausted, or not? Crowd, yes. Issei, well, let's rest for the few hours we have left. Tomorrow we'll solve our problems. Crowd, yes. Issei, well, have a good night's rest. Everyone stayed in one place under the moonlight as their roof except one. Issei stayed awake for a while. Issei, what happened? I still don't know. I hope everything is okay. I hope I can see you again, my girls.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.